Kraken's Garage and Adventures. If you notice, I changed the name of the title coming into the video from Garage to Garage and Adventures because I also take a lot of trips. I do a lot of riding and I have much to share on that regard, so it isn't all about wrenching. Minor change to my format and my program. We have a special episode today. A good friend of mine, Michael, who was known as Conchshooter on advrider.com. I befriended him on one of his epic journeys from the Keys to Niagara Falls for an iron butt ride, one of 3 that he's done in his life. He was very gracious. He stopped by for a visit and he was very gracious to do an interview. And many folks that know the story behind him will get to see an inside peek at the man. Legend, actually, because what makes this man so special is his will to overcome adversity. We'll find out what happened in this episode. I hope you stick around for the end of the video. I'll include many pictures that kind of tell the story of Michael and on the outro instead of me clowning on a bike. So stick around for those. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. Okay, this is Michael, a good friend of mine, and why don't you tell the folks how we met up a couple of years ago on your scooter trip.
By motorcycle. Everybody meets?
You were doing an iron butt. It was a 1,500 mile in 24 hours?
Yes, let me think. So what I did was this the first one I did? Was it on the Triumph?
No, this one was on the Bergman 200.
Oh, okay, yeah, this was the 3rd iron butt I did, which I never recorded because 2 weeks later I was in the hospital. I had a Bergman 200, which I thought was the epitome of small scooters, and I left Key West, and 32 hours later I arrived in, where the hell was it?
Niagara Falls.
Oh, Niagara Falls, that's right, yes, Niagara Falls. I rode all night. Mm-hmm. And I got there, and then I came back, and I stopped here and recuperated.
That's correct.
Just a little bit.
Now, folks, think about that for a second. That's 1,500 miles on a 200cc Suzuki Bergman 200 scooter. Again, I can't reiterate how reliable and how durable and how much storage you have on a scooter, so bear that in mind when you're taking a look at bikes. Don't discount a scooter. How did you get into riding and what did you start out on? I want to say it was a P200E?
No.
No? Okay.
No. My father was born in London. My mother was born in Rome. And when I lived in England, I lived at Hogwarts without the magic. It was a downside school.
Was it really Hogwarts?
It was just like Hogwarts without the magic. Downside school near Bath in Somerset. And I had a bicycle. And I rode my bicycle around the lanes of Somerset. I was always exploring. On my vacations, I threw away my tie and my striped pants, and I put on a t-shirt and shorts, and my mother, who was crazy about motorcycles, bought me a Vespa 50, a Vespa 50R in bright orange. And when I was 12 years old, which was completely illegal even in Italy at the time, I got on the Vespa 50 and I rode it all over the hills of central Italy where I lived. I was always an explorer at heart.
Okay.
And eventually I traded up from my Vespa 50 and I bought a completely unsuitable MV Agusta 350 Twin.
Ooh.
Which was, I didn't know what a great motorcycle it was. It just happened to be for sale in the village.
Ooh,
Excuse me.
Yeah, it was beautiful bike.
It was, and it was for sale. It was cheap. The guy didn't want it anymore. And there were no other motorcycles available. We didn't have the internet in 1974. So I bought this bright fire engine red motorcycle with clip-on handlebars and a very long tank. I was younger and thinner in those days. And I threw a couple of bags on it, fiberglass bags, put a tent on it, and
off you went.
Took off on my clip-on handlebars. I knew no better.
Outstanding. Tell me about your travels when you bought the T200E, a Vespa P200E. This was a 2-stroke manual transmission scooter.
Yes. This is Rusty, if he's in shot. What happened was I decided I wanted to give up on Europe and go and live somewhere else. I was on my way to Australia. So I got on an aeroplane and I flew to New York with about $10,000 in traveler's checks, as we traveled in those days.
And I went to King's Cycles in Brooklyn, which is still there, by the way. They sell Japanese bikes now. And I bought a P200E, brand new off the dealer floor. And I bought a rack on it. And I went back to the youth hostel where I was staying, and they said, you can't park that here. So I said, oh, okay. So I took off. I had nowhere to park it in New York City. I went to the cops, and they said, you're not going to park that thing here. So I took off at about 8 o'clock at night, and I rode to New Jersey. I found a bed and breakfast, and that was my first night by myself with a Vespa. I had no idea where I was going.
That first night on your first trip on any bike, is that an amazing trip and iconic in your mind?
Yeah, I think it's called the Holland Tunnel.
Okay.
On a brand new, not run-in P200.
Okay.
When there were no other scooters in the United States, everywhere I went, I got pulled over by the cops all the time. What are you doing on that thing from New York? It was something suspicious. And out west, where there were no roads, I had to ride the freeways. They wouldn't believe that it was a 15 horsepower freeway legal.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
So whereabouts did you visit on this Vespa?
Okay, so this is 1981. I had a National Geographic map.
Okay.
And I put it on the front rack on top of the spare fuel tank, and I said, where am I going to go? And there was a dotted line from Key West to Cancun. So I thought, cool, I'll go to Key West. Don't want to miss New Orleans, so I went to New Orleans in the rain. It was through this area, actually. It was raining every day. Every night I spent a night in the Fleabag Motel because it was just raining. I had a Gore-Tex sleeping bag and no tent. I was always into minimalism. And the idea was I'd sleep in my sleeping bag and not deal with a tent. Because Gore-Tex was this new material. It was waterproof. It was fantastic. I wasn't sleeping in the rain, so I stayed in motels. I got to New Orleans. I went back to Key West around the Gulf Coast. And imagine my surprise when I got to Mallory Square on my Vespa, and they said, oh, that ferry, ha, 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 that hasn't run for 10 years. So I'm at the very bottom of the United States on my Vespa with nowhere to go. So I turned around and I went back to New Orleans.
Okay.
And then I went to Ojinaga in Mexico. I crossed the river at, I forget where now, Eagle Pass or somewhere.
Okay.
And I went to Mexico.
Okay.
Which reminded me enormously of Italy. I was actually more at home in Mexico than I was in the United States, which is a completely foreign culture to me.
All right.
Being in Mexico was like being in Italy. It was very. I didn't speak a lick of Spanish, and Italian is not close enough to Spanish to manage. But I rode through Mexico. I went to Guadalajara. I went down to Mazatlan. I swam in the Pacific Ocean and nearly drowned. I'd never heard of undertow. A Mexican body surfer kid lent me his board to get back to the beach and laughed at me all the way. But I made it back, and I got on the Vespa, and I slept on the streets. I unrolled my sleeping bag at night, and I slept on the sidewalks of Guadalajara. Never had a problem. Nobody ever bothered me the entire trip across the United States or Mexico. Rode back to the United States through Nogales, and I went up to California. I met a woman who was Italian, and she was attracted to me not by my virile good looks, but by my scooter.
Okay.
Vespas are good for that.
Okay. So scooters get chicks?
Yeah. and she tells me, I still talk to her to this day. She's a little too crazy to be married to me, but I still talk to her, and she said we were together 8 years, which kind of surprises me.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I put the Vespa in storage. She fell off the Vespa. We had a flat tire. She broke her leg. She didn't care.
Okay.
I told you she's crazy. Yeah, we rode back to San Francisco with her leg sticking out in front, with her crutch on one side and her leg sticking out on the other side. And she went back to Florence.
To be young again.
Yeah, I know, crazy, isn't it? I took a plane to Japan. I took a boat to Siberia. I took a train to West Berlin. I spent a week on the train in the Soviet Union. That was an experience. And I went back and hooked up with her in Florence. We were together for 8 years. All thanks to the P200. Very
cool. And now you live in...
now I'm married. I've been married for 26 years. I have a ET4 150, and I have a van, and I'm trying to travel and have different adventures in more comfort.
And your riding is pretty primarily just limited to going to work and running around errands?
I don't even go to work on the Florida Keys are overpopulated. I had an appalling accident 2 years ago, and it was really a wake-up call to avoid the traffic. There's too much traffic.
there's not enough paying attention, and I just became a statistic. I was lucky to live. I spent 3 months in the hospital, several months, 6 months learning to walk again, which is a bit annoying. I got away with it, basically. A classic car pulled out in front of me in a hurry to go somewhere, and I just plowed into it. The Bergman was toast.
Things that we all think about and loom in the back of our mind that ride whatever type of bike is you are inherently at risk. So,
and I always knew it. I always told my wife, if I have a bad accident and I die, don't worry about it. And I got a free helicopter flight out of it. It was more painful than I would have liked, and they weren't sure I was going to live. I crushed my pelvis against the handlebars. I bounced off the car. I was basically broken into several pieces, and they weren't sure I was going to live. And I had enormous regrets while I was in the hospital, lying flat on my back. I grew to love my catheter. Not having to worry about peeing is a great thing. I did not enjoy being ventilated, which makes me rather nervous about coronavirus. But I decided that I wanted to go back to having more adventures. I've almost qualified for my pension at work. And I decided that I wanted to go back to having some adventures. And unfortunately, my wife said she wanted to come too, which made, and Rusty, of course, couldn't be left behind. So we bought a camper van.
And Michael's next chapter, he's within less than a year of retirement.
Yeah, 23 months, less than 2 years.
And they're going to sell out, put what little they have in storage, hop in their van, and go see the world. They're going to live the nomad life, and I think that's admirable, and I can't wait to hear about their adventures and see it.
I ain't gonna do video because it's too much work, but I will post photographs. It's basically I just want to go out and do what I did when I was younger, but do it more appropriate to my advanced age.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we thank Michael for making a pop-in appearance here at Casa de Redneck, and we appreciate him sharing a small part of his life. Michael is basically on vacation, on holiday right now, and doing a dry run in his new van with his lovely wife and Rusty the dog. And they're on transit and headed to Chicago next, and we look forward to his next visit when they get back on the road permanently. And plan to stay here a little longer so we can do some riding and hang out, and maybe a future video of that. And
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the vehicle is the vehicle of choice, and I would use a scooter. I mean, I did use a scooter. I got away with it. I got away with it for 50 years, and I would recommend riding a motorcycle anytime you want. But if unfortunately your family decides to come with you, modify the plan, but keep traveling.
Something we all deal with regarding family and kids and wives and things like that. So.
I'm sorry, sir. I think you may have the wrong address. I'm expecting a teeny-weeny Bergman 200. This looks like a fantastic motorcycle you're riding.
You're catching me at my worst moment.
Well, you've arrived and you're in one piece and nobody stabbed you.
Oh my gosh. What a trip. You again? I'm getting tired of this. Why do you keep haunting them? I'm not even in the garage this time. I'm in my home. You're haunting my home now too? All right. We get it. Like, subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for joining me. Remember, folks, Kraken is good for ya!